Witam Państwa.
Hello everyone, my name is Robert Pasek. I represent STROPEX company, which has just brought elements of its system to the construction site near Sochaczew. I would like to convince you and confirm with my many years of experience that prefabricated floor is highly polished and does not pose any problems in construction. It speeds up the construction and, as a result, we obtain a much better ceiling in terms of constructional and thermal parameters than the poured ceiling. We have a wide variety of floor solutions, but the most common of them is reinforced concrete ceiling. It competes with our solution, even though it is an old solution, and tradition probably plays a big role here. It is a simple yet labor-intensive. All system to the stages of prefabrication in the production plant means that ready-to-install elements are delivered to the construction site. All floor system consists of the Teriva floor, a well-known solution, while the complementary elements in the form of the ring beam mean that we dare to call it a floor system. Basic elements covering the ring beam are KZE formwork blocks. These are L-shaped elements fitted with the bottom base to the width of the wall, while the vertical edge is adjusted to the thickness of the ceiling. A complementary element, but very important in the construction of the ring beam, is the KZN lintel. KZN lintel is a similar element to the formwork block, which covers the ring beam, but is an element that replaces the three elements used so far. So far, L19 lintels have been used, then a brick laying and a formwork blocks as the third element. Our KZN lintel causes the usage of only one element. We see the basic elements of our system. In example, KZE formwork blocks, KWE blocks and KZN lintel. Maybe a few words about individual elements. KZN block is an element adjusted to the wall thickness and floor height that allows us to board the ring beam and transfer the load from the floor to the wall. It is an important function as the investors now use very often porous materials on which we cannot directly base the floor beams. We should do this through the so-called lower ring beam. And this element allows us to make, in a safe, efficient and low-cost way, a lower ring beam. A ring beam in which the lower reinforcement of this ring beam is below the floor level. This is KZE block, or external block, in the shape of L, and here we have a block for the inner walls. A very important element of our system is KZN lintel. KZN lintel is an innovative solution which surpasses current constructions with their functionality and obvious advantages. By using KZN lintels, we gain space unattainable so far, which allows us to use roller blinds without the need to reduce the window surface. A name, a lintel for a roller blind, has even been used. In addition, conditions for the correct warming of the window opening has been created. The so-called warm window system developed by STROPEX specialists. Thanks to the comprehensive approach to the KZN lintel, this solution is recommended for energy saving and passive buildings. Another element that I would like to interest you is a prefabricated joist, which in a great way accelerates the construction process. Such a joist causes that we do not have to make a full formwork made of wood or other material, while we have a ready-made prefabricated joist for up to 6 meters. We started the construction process 2 days earlier, in order to cover a ring beam with KZE formwork blocks and lintel elements. The next step is to analyze precisely the installation project. Such a project should be in each technical documentation of the building, and there designer has drawn up a very detailed location of individual beams. If we know how these beams are located, we put them with 2 hollow bricks at their ends. We arrange the beams every 60 centimeters. We see here the installation of subsequent hollow bricks. I would like you to pay attention to the construction of the hollow brick. This is, patented by STROPEX, 12-chamber hollow brick made of expanded clay concrete. Thanks to such a construction of a hollow brick, its thermal parameters are increasing considerably. Please note that the elements are very precise, which allows a very easy installation, and then we obtain a floor with a very high smoothness and a very high precision of workmanship. Here we can see a ready ring beam. It is a lower ring beam. Notice that the lower ring beam reinforcement is located below the beams. Our KZN formwork block and lintel allowed for this lower ring beam without unnecessary financial outlays and time needed to perform a traditional lower ring beam. We see here inner ring beam, made with the KWE inner blocks, on which beams on one and the other side are based, and the lower ring beam is created, so reinforcement is below the beams. All blocks can have a concave lower part to better link to the wall, but especially this concavity is needed when we have to carry the cores from the bottom wall from the lower floor. An indispensable element ending the floor construction is to mount the reinforcement mesh. I want you to be aware that reinforcement meshes are a necessary element. They transfer specific tensile forces that appear in the floor. If we do not use such nets, scratches in the supporting area can show during usage. The construction has been completed. All important elements of the floor have been checked and, above all, its correct support. At this moment, reinforcement meshes are already arranged and the floor surface should be cleaned from the remains created during construction. When we are about to concrete, we should start sprinkle the floor with water. We concrete. We have wet all floor elements and concrete pump arrived, and we proceed to concreting. Concreting should take place in a reasonable way, like all activities on the construction site. Namely, we cannot target concrete into one place to not overload the structure. Let us do it reasonably, directing the first stream on strong elements, in example on ring beams. It is best if you fill the ring beams at the beginning. We use a poker vibrator that will allow us to thicken concrete in the ring beam correctly and cause the concrete to flow to the beam flange. Correct filling of all this space and thickening of this concrete is an indispensable element. Here I see that we have a prepared vibrating bar. It is very good that this element is on the construction site. This will thoroughly thicken the concrete and correctly smooth the surface. Remember that the concrete that comes to us should be certified and should have strength C20. Concreting should take place in a direction perpendicular to beams, so we fulfill one space between two beams and go in direction perpendicular to the beams. Once again, I remind you that this first pump hit is very intense, and please aim it on a ring beam, that is where there is a wall and we have a very strong load-bearing element. Whatever solution you have in your building, you can report to STROPEX, of course electronically, sending a projection of your building. STROPEX specialist in a very short time will redesign the solution to the STROPEX floor system. We encourage you to visit our website www.system-stropex.pl, on which designers can download our program for designing the STROPEX floor system free of charge. The company STROPEX is a leading producer of floor systems in Poland. We produce a joist in millions of kilometers and hollow bricks in millions of pieces. All these elements supplemented for ring beam covering cause that we have a beautiful system that STROPEX sells throughout Poland. Thanks to our system, you have a guarantee that the house will stay for decades.